No one remembers the exact moment they disappear. It doesn't happen in one dramatic event. There's no explosion, no headline, no final goodbye. You just wake up one morning and realize the world has quietly decided you don't exist anymore. People talk around you, not to you. They look through you, not at you. Your name becomes something used only on bills and warnings. That's how it begins. Not with violence, not with madness, but with erasure. You tried to be normal once. You really did. You practiced smiling in the mirror because it felt like something everyone else understood instinctively. You memorized jokes from late-night shows, hoping laughter might be a language you could learn if you studied hard enough. At work, you nodded at conversations you weren't part of, laughed half a second too late, clapped when everyone else clapped. You weren't pretending to be happy, you were pretending to belong. There's a difference, and it slowly eats you alive. The city didn't hate you. That would have required noticing you. Indifference is colder than cruelty because at least cruelty acknowledges you're there. Indifference erases you without effort. Every rejection letter, every ignored message, every closed door stacked on top of each other until your life felt like a hallway with no exits. You kept telling yourself tomorrow would be different, that patience would eventually pay off, that if you endured long enough, something would change. Nothing changed. Bills piled up like quiet threats. Medication ran out. The few routines that kept you anchored began slipping away one by one. Even the television stopped feeling like company and started feeling like noise. The laughter tracks on sitcoms sounded artificial, mechanical, like the world was mocking you with a version of happiness designed for someone else. Nights became longer because sleep stopped coming easily. When you did drift off, you woke up exhausted, as if even your dreams didn't want you there. The first time someone hit you, it surprised you more than it hurt. 3 teenagers, bored and restless, looking for something to break so they could feel powerful for 5 minutes. You weren't a target. You were convenient. As you lay on the pavement afterward, staring up at the flickering streetlight, something shifted inside you. Not rage, not yet, but clarity. The realization that the rules everyone else followed didn't protect you because they were never meant for people like you. The world wasn't fair. It wasn't unfair either. It was indifferent, chaotic, careless. And if nothing mattered, then maybe nothing was stopping you from becoming something else entirely. You started laughing before you even knew why. Not because it was funny, not because you were happy, because the alternative was silence, and silence was worse. That was the day you stopped trying to matter. That was the day the world created the thing it would later pretend to fear. The subway car smells like metal, sweat, and something sour that never quite leaves no matter how many times they clean it. Fluorescent lights flicker overhead, turning every face into something pale and exhausted. No one looks at each other. That's the unspoken rule of the city. Proximity without connection. You sit there trying to make yourself small, trying not to take up space you feel you don't deserve. The paper bag in your hands trembles slightly, crumpled at the edges from how tightly you've been holding it. Inside is the last fragile piece of the life you were supposed to have. They enter loud. 3 men in expensive suits, drunk on confidence more than alcohol, laughing too hard at jokes that aren't funny. The kind of people who never had to wonder if they belonged anywhere. They scan the car the way predators scan a field, looking for movement, weakness, something to dominate just to remind themselves they can. Their eyes land on you because of course they do. You're alone. You always are. At first, it's just comments, harmless on the surface, sharp underneath. Questions you aren't meant to answer. Jokes where you're the punchline before you even understand what's happening. You try to ignore them, stare at the floor, become invisible again. But invisibility doesn't work when someone decides you're entertainment. One of them grabs the bag from your hands, peeks inside, tosses it back like whatever you're carrying isn't worth the effort of cruelty. Laughter fills the car, bouncing off the metal walls until it feels like it's coming from everywhere at once. Your chest tightens. That laugh escapes before you can stop it. Sharp, uncontrollable, wrong. Not the kind of laugh that signals amusement. The kind that sounds like something breaking. They freeze for a second, confused, then amused again because now you're not just weak. You're strange, dangerous in a way they can't categorize. One of them steps closer, his smile gone, replaced by irritation. People like him don't like things they can't control. Say that again, he demands. You try to explain, try to force the words out between breaths, But the laughter only gets worse, clawing its way out of your throat as if it's been trapped there for years, waiting for this exact moment. It hurts. Your ribs ache. Tears blur your vision. They don't see pain, they see disrespect. The first punch comes fast, then another. You fall hard against the metal pole, the world spinning, the taste of blood spreading across your tongue like something warm and electric. The train keeps moving, indifferent, carrying all of you forward whether anyone survives the ride or not. For a second, everything goes quiet inside your head, like someone turned off the noise that's been screaming there your entire life. Your hand finds the object in your pocket before your mind catches up. Cold, heavy, final. You never planned to use it. It was supposed to be insurance, a symbol of control in a life that had none. But plans belong to people who believe tomorrow will resemble today. Something inside you has already crossed a line you didn't even know existed. The first shot is louder than you imagined. The sound doesn't feel real. It feels like the world itself cracked open for a split second. One of them collapses instantly, confusion frozen on his face as if he still expects reality to correct itself. The other two stumble backward, shock replacing arrogance in a heartbeat. Now they're afraid. Now they understand what it feels like to lose control. You stand slowly, the laughter still shaking through you, mixing with something new. Not relief, not triumph, something colder. Clarity. The realization that the barrier between victim and monster is thinner than anyone admits. You fire again and again. Each shot echoes through the car like punctuation marks, ending a sentence that started years ago. When it's over, the silence is absolute. Passengers stare, frozen between terror and disbelief, as if witnessing something that shouldn't exist. You look down at your hands, expecting to feel horror, regret, anything that would prove you're still the person you were this morning. Instead, you feel calm. Not because what you did was justified, because for the first time in your life, the world reacted to you. As the train screeches into the station, you step onto the platform and disappear into the crowd before anyone understands what just happened. Sirens begin somewhere behind you, distant at first, then growing louder, chasing ghosts that no longer resemble the man you used to be. You don't run. You don't need to. Because the person who would have been afraid is already gone. And something else is walking in his place. The city wakes up angry. Not shocked, not mourning. Angry. News screens flicker in storefronts, in diners, in the windows of electronics shops where televisions are always slightly too loud. Your face isn't there yet. They don't know who you are. But the story is everywhere. 3 men from powerful families dead on a subway. Words like senseless, tragic, and unthinkable, repeated by people who have never had to think about survival for even a second. Commentators argue about security, about punishment, about restoring order, as if order was ever something real instead of a fragile agreement everyone pretended to follow. You walk through it unnoticed. That's the irony. The city that suddenly cares so much about what happened still doesn't see the person responsible standing in the middle of it. Sirens pass, police rush by, helicopters carve circles into the sky. The noise builds into something almost physical, pressing against your skull. But inside you, there's only that same unsettling calm. Not peace, something emptier. Like a room after all the furniture has been removed. At home, the walls feel closer than before. The television keeps talking, filling the silence with outrage that sounds rehearsed. You sit there replaying the moment again and again, not with guilt, but with curiosity. Trying to understand why it changed everything. Why the constant pressure in your chest is gone. Why the fear that used to follow you everywhere has evaporated like it was never real to begin with. Then you laugh, not the broken, uncontrollable sound from before. This time it's deliberate, measured, tested like a new voice you're trying out to see if it fits. You catch your reflection in the dark screen. Eyes clearer than you've ever seen them. Posture different. Something unrecognizable settling into your expression. The person staring back doesn't look relieved or horrified. He looks awake. You start to understand. The world makes sense when you stop expecting it to. All the rules, all the expectations, all the invisible barriers that kept you small were never enforced by anything real. Just fear. And fear disappears the moment you realize you have nothing left to lose. That's what they never taught you. That freedom isn't something given. It's something that happens when consequences stop mattering. Later, on the crowded streets, something else becomes clear. People are talking, not about the victims anymore, but about the idea of what happened, about someone striking back, about someone proving that power isn't permanent. You see it in their eyes. Not approval, not exactly, but fascination, a dangerous curiosity. The sense that maybe the system everyone pretends works might not be as stable as they were told. You duck into an empty restroom, the fluorescent lights humming overhead. For a long time, you just stand there staring at your reflection, hands resting on the cracked porcelain sink, as if grounding yourself in the only solid thing left. Your face still looks ordinary, forgettable, the kind of face people overlook in crowds. That won't work anymore. Your fingers move almost without permission, tracing lines across your cheeks, pulling your mouth into a wider shape, testing expressions like masks you might wear. It feels wrong at first, artificial, but then something clicks. A realization that identity is just performance repeated long enough that people stop questioning it. If the world insists on turning you into a monster, you might as well decide what kind. When you step back, the smile remains. Not because it's natural, because you choose it. Outside, the noise of the city swells again, louder than ever, as protests begin forming blocks away. People shouting, marching, demanding change without knowing what change actually looks like. Chaos spreading not from you, but because the system cracked under the weight of its own illusion of control. You watch from the shadows, unseen as always, except now invisibility feels like power instead of punishment. For the first time, you understand what you are. Not a victim, not a survivor, not even a man. A catalyst. Something that exposes how thin the line between order and madness really is. As flames reflect in the glass of nearby buildings and sirens merge into a single endless scream, the laughter returns. Not forced, not painful, but genuine in a way that feels almost terrifying. Because it isn't coming from despair anymore. It's coming from freedom. The person you were is gone. And the city just created the one thing it can never control. By the time the city realizes what's happening, it's already too late. It starts as scattered fires, trash cans overturned, sirens drowning under the roar of voices that have spent years being ignored. Masks appear first, cheap plastic copies sold in corner stores that suddenly feel like artifacts of a new religion. Strangers wearing the same grin, the same exaggerated smile, not because they understand you, but because they understand what you represent. An excuse to stop pretending everything is fine. An excuse to stop obeying rules written by people who will never have to follow them. You move through the chaos untouched. Police lines form and collapse like waves hitting rocks that refuse to break. Helicopters circle overhead, spotlights cutting through smoke that smells like burning plastic and desperation. Somewhere, glass shatters. Somewhere else, someone screams. It's impossible to tell who started what anymore. Cause and effect dissolve into something primal. Action without consequence, reaction without thought. The city isn't being destroyed by one man. It's revealing what it always was beneath the surface. On a deserted staircase leading up to an elevated platform, you pause. The noise fades just enough to hear your own breathing, steady and slow, as if your body understands something your mind is still catching up to. This isn't about revenge. It never was. Revenge ends when the target is gone. This doesn't end. It spreads. You climb. Each step feels deliberate, ceremonial, like ascending towards something you can't fully see yet, but know has been waiting for you. The higher you go, the clearer the view becomes. Streets pulsing with movement, lights flickering through smoke, thousands of lives intersecting in a single moment of collapse and awakening. They aren't following you. Most of them don't even know you exist as a person. They're following the idea that someone showed them the system can bleed. At the top, you turn. Below you, the crowd surges like a living thing, unpredictable, unstoppable. Some look up, noticing you for the first time, pointing, shouting, their voices rising as recognition spreads. Others just keep moving, caught in the gravity of the chaos. It doesn't matter. Whether they see you or not, you're already part of every action happening down there. Not as a leader, as a spark. For a moment, doubt flickers. A final ghost of the person you used to be. You think about the quiet apartment, the empty days, the desperate attempts to be someone the world would accept. That life feels like it belonged to a stranger now. Someone you watched from a distance but never truly understood. He wanted stability, safety, approval, all the things that make people predictable. You don't want any of that anymore. You spread your arms slowly, not as a gesture of triumph, but of surrender to what you've become. The night air rushes past, cold and electric, carrying the sound of a city rewriting itself in real time. You laugh, not loudly, not theatrically, just enough for the sound to exist, to confirm that this is real and not another cruel joke reality played on you. Spotlights snap onto you suddenly, dozens of them. Police below, weapons raised, orders shouted through megaphones that distort every word into something almost mechanical. They want you to freeze, to surrender, to return to the rules that stopped applying the moment you stepped outside them. For a second, the entire world narrows to that single choice, compliance or defiance. You start walking down the steps toward them, not fast, not slow, unstoppable. They hesitate. That's the part they never train for. Someone who isn't trying to escape, isn't trying to negotiate, isn't even trying to survive. Someone who already accepted the consequences before they acted. Fear spreads through their formation, subtle but visible, because deep down they understand what you are now can't be undone by handcuffs or prison walls. A voice shouts to stop. You don't. Hands grab you, forcing you down, the concrete cold against your cheek as the chaos continues all around. Even pinned to the ground, even restrained, you feel lighter than you ever did walking free through a world that refused to see you. Sirens wail louder, closer, merging into a single endless note that sounds almost like applause if you stop thinking about what it really is. As they drag you toward the waiting car, you turn your head just enough to see the city one more time. Fires reflected in windows like constellations, crowds still moving, masks still smiling. You realize then that it doesn't matter what happens to you next. They can lock away the body, silence the voice, erase the name. None of that touches what you've already set in motion. Symbols don't live in cells. Ideas don't bleed. The story won't end because the story was never about you as a person. It was about showing everyone how close they were to the edge all along. The car door slams shut, sealing you inside a cage meant for men, not myths. Through the glass, the city blurs into streaks of light and shadow as you're driven away from the epicenter of the chaos you helped awaken. Your reflection stares back at you, distorted by the movement, the smile still there. Not forced, not painted on, just permanent now. You finally understand the punchline. The world didn't create a monster, it created a mirror. And for the first time in your life, you aren't invisible. You're unforgettable. You are Joker.